This week I caught up with Todd Salone from the Pizza and Property Podcast. Now, the Pizza and Property Podcast is available on Spotify and iTunes and interviews people from around Australia talking about different markets, different investment strategies and different development concepts. Well worth a look if you haven't checked it out before. Me and Todd spoke about the Cairns property market and what we're seeing here locally. So if this is of interest to you, tune on in and have a listen.
This is the Weekly Slice, bite-sized pieces of facts, data and property info, one slice at a time. Welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Slice. I'm your host, Todd Sloan. This is the Pizza and Property Podcast, and we have got a very happy check-in today. We're actually going to be speaking with Sean Happy Craigie. Now, Happy's not his real name, but how can you not say this? This dude is always full of smiles, he's full of knowledge, and he has been in the real estate industry for 6 years in the local Cairns market in Queensland. I want to find out what's actually happening in the regional sectors at the moment, especially the ones that have been hard hit by tourism. Now, is this something that everything's falling apart? We're about to have a bit of a doom and gloom, or is this something that's actually, you know what, maybe things aren't as bad? But I don't want to speculate on this kind of stuff, and I certainly don't want to trust what the media is saying. I want to actually talk to someone that's got their feet on the ground, got experience behind them, and that's exactly what Sean's got as a sales agent for Twomby Schreiber up there for the past 6 years. So let's talk to Sean and find out exactly what's happening in the real estate market in Cairns. Sean, how you going, mate?
Yeah, very well, Todd. Thank you for having me on today.
Thank you for joining us. I got to ask, Cairns weather. I try and not talk about the weather because it's such a generic thing. But what's going on up there today? Is it like perfect, or is it all like muggy and stormy?
If you're fortunate, you may hear some thunder. And if you're even more fortunate, the power may go out.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, let's jump straight into it then so we don't lose you. Speaking of Cairns, mate, that's the whole reason we're here. We want your opinion on it. What's actually been happening in the local Cairns market today in terms of like price growth and demand?
Pretty much the opposite to what everyone thought may happen back in April, May of last year when the Rona started doing its rounds. I think everyone sort of thought Cairns, being a tourism destination, may see some strife. But I've been in the industry selling property for 6 years. Some of my colleagues have been doing it a lot longer than that, and pretty much everyone's saying that the housing market in Cairns is the best they've seen it in regards to buyers versus number of properties on the market.
Okay, so you're seeing a bit of a contraction in supply as well up there?
Yeah, definitely supply's shortened up, but probably there's way more buyers than there were this time last year. Even if there was the same amount of stock on the market, there's a lot more buyers in the market, which I think we're really starting to see investors coming back into the market up here at the moment, which I think across Australia, everyone's sort of seeing with the low interest rates, it sort of makes a lot of sense for people to be jumping back into property.
Absolutely. So what's a normal sort of open turnout? If you've got some like standard sort of quality investor stock, how many people are you normally seeing 12 months ago? Like 5, 10, 20?
So last year we were seeing, at an average open home last year, so something that had been on the market a little while, you're seeing sort of 4 to 6 groups coming through an open home.
Okay.
That number's now sitting at sort of 10 to 12. But the popular stock at the moment, like we had one open on the weekend that had 45 groups through it and ended up with 12 offers. And I don't think it was underpriced. Well, it clearly ended up, that what someone ended up paying for it was well over what we anticipated. But going into it, it didn't seem like it was a cheap listing. And at the end of the day, yeah, we had a massive turnout, and that's becoming more and more common, seeing that sort of 30 to 40 groups through something that people see value in.
And what type of dwelling is that? That unit, big family home?
So,
what was it? So
that was 4-bed, 2 bath, sort of your standard sort of mid-2000s sort of build, in a suburb that had a lot of those properties. So it wasn't like an outlier in the fact that it was hard to price. That one was priced at offers over 440. With comparables sitting around that 420, 430 mark, and then ended up getting bid up to 490.
Yeah,
so
wow.
Almost 10% over the asking price there for that one.
So
that's becoming...
Sorry, Sean, I was just going to say, so you weren't dangling a cherry at all. That was like very reasonably priced.
And especially in that suburb that was in Mount Sheridan in Cairns.
Yep.
It's a suburb where there is a lot of that style home. It wasn't like it was an odd outlier or like something that had like a granny flat or was a bit hard to price. It was a home that was pretty generic for that sort of suburb. But yeah, heard from a lot of buyers at that one that had missed out on a number of properties, and I think it was really that FOMO driving that sort of price, that fear of missing out.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's a bit of a common sort of thought process, belief, whatever you will, that the Cairns property market is really reliant on the tourism sector. Now, having pretty much, I'm going to guess, most of that just disappeared in 2020, do you feel that's still a pretty fair assumption to make, or has the market adapted?
Oh, it was, like I say, going back to like April, May last year when all the coronavirus stuff started to hit off, I was very concerned, and I think a lot of people were concerned about where the market may go up here, because 100% everyone had that belief that, we're a tourism town. What's going to happen when tourism stopped? And literally, we've had no international tourists now for, coming up to 12 months. Even domestic tourism, I know a lot of people are hesitant to book flights from Melbourne up to here just because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. But the market's done the opposite. It's just continued to tick up. The rental market's absolutely ballistic up here at the moment. And I think more than anything driving that is migration. There seems to be a lot of people moving to Cairns. So while there might be unemployment in the tourism sector, it's all of those people that now can work remotely that hadn't realised that before or hadn't fully committed to it, have worked at home during sort of the shutdowns and realised that, hold on, I can do this from anywhere in Australia.
Yeah, why not Trinity Beach, or why not Palm Cove, or yeah, I get you. That makes perfect sense.
And I think as well, like our price point, our median price point up here is sitting around 410,000. So from someone from Sydney or Melbourne where, you're a $1 million price tag, they can cash out of their $1 million home, buy something of a similar quality up here for 400,000 and have 600,000 sitting in the bank if they own their property outright, like an old, so that sort of is very appealing, or have 600,000 less in debt. So that's sort of, I think, driving a lot of the migration.
Yeah, absolutely. And for any of our listeners actually wanting to invest in the Cairns property market right now, what are the real takeaways you feel are important for a non-local to understand before they're actually putting their money there?
Yeah, I think probably one of the big things that I hear all the time, and it's almost one of those false beliefs people create, is that there's no capital gains in regional areas. And while that has been true for the last sort of 10 years, the period of time, sort of the 4 years leading up to 2008, property prices doubled in Cairns. So to say there's been no capital growth is sort of to really look at such a snippet of time in history and not the long-term picture. So I think if anyone is considering investing up here, there is a really good cash flow and high yield play, but I think there's also the potential for capital growth in the coming years.
Okay, so you're feeling it hasn't happened for a while, but it has happened in the past. And I mean, I suppose doubling in, what'd you say, the space of 2 years, was it, back then?
In 4 years, from 2004 to 2008, house prices doubled up here.
Wow, okay. And so you're looking at that with a bit of we're due, basically.
We're due, but even the yields at the moment are just attractive as an investment point of view, and I think those yields are almost too good that they won't last. I think you'll see investors coming into the market and will push those yields down as prices go up, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I see exactly where you're going with that.
Yeah, not so much the rental prices will drop, just that the sale prices will go up to sort of have a more normal yield than the sort of some of the 6 and 7% net yields that are happening up here at the moment.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Sean Crakey, is there any other final words of wisdom you'd like to leave with our audience, mate?
Oh, look, I think that sort of covers it off. I know sometimes that sort of sounds too good to be true, but I think it's one of those markets up here in Cairns at the moment that it's worth actually putting your feelers and just having a bit of a look and doing some preliminary research, because it is a pretty exciting market up here at the moment, and I think something that has a bit of longevity to it.
Awesome. And if you're going to take a plane ride anywhere to research a market in person as well, I mean, there could be a lot of worse places you could spend a weekend than Cairns, I can tell you.
You're not going out to some dry mine site in the middle of nowhere, there's certainly nice place to come visit.
Oh, absolutely. All right, Sean, thank you so much for your time, mate. You have yourself a great rest of the week.
Yeah, cheers, Todd.
I don't know about you, but I'm seeing a super common thread right now. Stock supply is low. Demand is high. Prices are being achieved above market levels. Like Sean just said, this wasn't like, okay, let's price it at 440 and we really know it's actually going to sell for 500. That's where the comps are. It's like, no, the comps were 420, 430. Let's price it at 440. That seems realistic. And then it goes for 490. Like people are outbidding. And I'm seeing this here in Adelaide. Everyone I'm talking to in Sydney seeing this. We're going to jump on the phone to a few people in Melbourne as well. So let's actually, if we've got any Melbourne listeners here, let us know what you guys are wanting to hear as far as local market updates. Do you want Melbourne CBD? Do you want Ballarat? Do you want Bendigo? Whereabouts do you want? Because I want to give you exactly the info that you guys are after. But otherwise, that has been your weekly slice this week. I'm Todd Sloan. You are you. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Pizza and Property Podcast. And as always, have an amazing rest of the week and stay awesome.